Hey, what's up YouTube? King James here. Warzone Season 2 Reloaded is here, and it's sort of a mid-season update, and it's brought with it some changes to some of the multiplayer maps, some bug fixes, and a couple of changes to two popular guns. Now, the Aug was one of the guns that was recently changed, and they increased its base recoil pattern. So recently I've been using the M16 quite a bit, and I've really enjoyed using it, and I think it's a better gun than the Aug, but until recently I haven't had a chance to test all of the different things on the guns to see which one's really better. So I looked at everything, like recoil pattern, reload time, ADS speed, stuff like that to see which gun is actually the best. And I put all of that together now, and I have that in this video for you right now. So I like to start by looking at the base stats on the two guns, especially when you're comparing two guns that are very similar. And when you look at these guns, pretty well everything is exactly the same. Head and chest, 72 and 40, 72 and 40. They both have no drop off, so there's no effective damage range, and everything else is the same. The ADS, the bullet velocity, mag size, all that's the same. The only thing that really looks like it's different when you look at them here is the M16 has 436 rounds per minute, where the Aug is 464. It's a tiny bit higher. So it makes you feel like the Aug is better. If everything's the same and you got a higher fire rate, why wouldn't you use the Aug? Well, there's a bit more to the story than that. Let me show you. When you look at the loadouts on the guns, they almost are exactly the same as well. Agency silencer, strike team, axial arms, 54 round fast, field agent foregrip. And on the M16, agent, strike, axial arms, fast mag, and the field grip. Now, the only difference that you may have noticed there is the ammo in the M16, instead of getting 54, you get 60. So you get 6 extra bullets with the M16. But other than that, you know, it's got a slower rate of fire, carries more bullets. But other than that, there's no real difference that you can see. If you look at the stats right here, and if I go back here, they look eerily similar. They're almost exactly the same. So when you look at them on sort of on paper from the base stats, and when you add the attachments to it, they really look the same. But there are some differences that are subtle but matter. Let me show those to you. So I'm going to look at 6 key areas that I think really make a difference between the Aug and the M16. That's the ADS speed, some differences in the reticle, reload speed, rate of fire, bullet velocity, and the bullet spread or the bullet pattern. And we'll have a look at these differences and see if there's anything that really makes one gun stand out from the other. And then, you know, hopefully this information, once we get it all together, will help you decide what gun that you think is the best one for you, the Aug or the M16. So let's get started with the ADS speed. So here's the ADS speed on the Aug with 3 of the popular magazines, the 45 round drum, the Speed 60, and the Salvo 60 round fast. And I'll just slowly drag it across here. And of course, you know, the bigger the mag is, the slower it's going to be. So there's the 45 round drum, and there's 2 different things that I was looking at. First one, if you look at the 45 round drum on the side here, it's when does the background stop zooming in, and then when does the scope sort of get to a place where it looks like it's, you know, not really moving anymore. So in the 45 round drum, it happened in 233 milliseconds, and then it was steady around 316. The Speed 60 next at 333, and then it was steady at around 383. And then the Salvo 60 round fast mag, which gives you a faster reload but penalizes you with more ADS speed, was 383 and 433. And where that really landed on the Aug is when you go up, it adds 67 milliseconds on the Speed 60 and 117 extra milliseconds on the Salvo 60 round fast mag. So that really drove up the ADS time when you go down to the bigger magazines. And on the M16, it was predictably the same, but a little bit slower. So the 45 round drum, again, came in at 3 and 360, and then 4 and 460, and then 5 and 510. And what that really left us with was 100 milliseconds moving up from the 45 to the 60, and then 150 milliseconds for the, you know, the fast mag, which gives you the extra reload speed. So the Aug is a little faster all the way across in the ADS department. But let me show you the 2 side by side. So here's the ADS speed on the Aug versus the M16 using all of the same attachments and the 45 round drum. And as you can see, when I pull it across, yeah, the Aug gets there faster, but you can see the scope of the M16 was already kind of dialed in. So it's sort of, you know, doesn't zoom, the background doesn't zoom as fast, but the reticle comes up faster. So it says it has a slower ADS, but that's, you know, when I'm getting to the very end of it. So the Aug does finish first, but the scope on the M16 looks like it gets larger first, where you could start firing earlier. So maybe the ADS is actually faster from that standpoint on the M16. And the same thing with the Salvo 60 round fast mag. It has that slower ADS, but again, the M16 comes up first and fastest before the Aug does. So yeah, it has a slower overall ADS, but I think you could actually shoot first where that reticle is large. Like, look at right there. I could already be shooting where here it's a little weird. You probably could, but I mean, this is much cleaner sight. And while we're talking about sights, look at the difference. So here's the Aug. Look at this huge ring around causing you to actually see less, where you don't have that on the M16. And I'm not sure why. It's smaller. These are both the Axial Arms 3X with the same green cross. There's no difference between it. Yet the Aug has a much larger ring on the outside than what the M16 does. So next, let's look at the reload speed. So this is the Aug with the 3 different magazines, and I'm just going to play it. And then it goes off and bang, there it is. So the Salvo 54 fast, as expected, fast, 2 seconds, versus the Stenag and the 45 round drum, both coming in at 3 seconds. Let's look at the M16. So here's the M16, exact same mags. I'm going to do the reload on them and done. So Salvo 54, same as the Aug at 2 seconds, but the other mags are actually 2.7 seconds to complete the reload, which is actually 300 milliseconds faster than the Aug. So the M16 on all of the mags also reloads a tiny bit faster. So now let's look at rate of fire. So I got the 2 guns up and I shot them as fast as I could, and I timed it and then just did a little math to see what the difference is between the rate of fire on the 2 guns. So on the Aug, it took 6.239 seconds, and the M16 was 7.374. But remember that the Aug has 54 bullets, where the M16 has 60. So it's got 6 extra, which is basically 2 more bursts per magazine. So what we end up with is, on the Aug, a 54 round mag with 6.239 seconds. And if you divide that, it's 8.655 bullets per second. And then over a minute, that's an RPM of 520. And the M16 was 60 and 7.3, which is 8.1 bullets per second. And you get a 488 RPM on the M16. So the Aug is about 40 RPM, or, we'll call that 8% faster than the M16 is. One of the other really important areas is bullet velocity, and I've done the testing on both guns since the Reloaded on Season 2 has made some changes to the bullet velocities, and the Aug is still higher, but not quite as high as it was before. So with the Strike Team barrel, which is still the best one to run, you're getting a 44% increase, and the Agency is another 29, and it's still multiplicative. So if you watch some of my other videos where I explain that, the Aug and the M16, they're both multiplicative, which means if it was additive, then you would have the barrel and just put the increase on top and then take the base for the muzzle and the percentage, and you'd land at 1040, but it's not, it's 1120. And that's because it's taking the barrel and adding 44%, and then taking 685, which is the increased barrel, and then putting 29% on top of that new larger amount to give you actually an 87% improvement, not 73%, because it's multiplicative. One is multiplying on top of the next. So that's how both of them work. And in the end, we end up with the Aug having 1120 bullet velocity, so meters per second, and the M16 is 1050. Now this is a little less than what it was before. I think it was around 1200 and 1100 before the change. But here's the thing, anything over 1000 is as good as it needs to be for the distance that you're going to shoot this gun. You're probably not going to shoot it over 300 meters. Maybe if you're crazy, you might go higher than that. But even at 1000 meters per second at 300 meters, the length of time for the bullet to get there is so short that you pretty well just put your reticle on them and shoot, and you're not going to have, very much bullet drop or any issues. The higher the bullet velocity, the less drop you have. So you just put your reticle right on the guy and fire, and you're probably going to hit him with either one of these guns, as long as they're over 1000. So the one last and probably most important thing was the bullet spread. And this is one thing that was really different on the Aug and the M16 that I found earlier that really made a difference for me. So I marked about 50 meters away, and I shot both guns up the wall. And I just wanted to see what the bullet pattern looked like when I was shooting, because that really helps me know whether my shots are going to land on an enemy when they're this far away and I'm aiming at them. What's the chances that all 3 bullets hit? And well, here's sort of what I found. So I'll just fast forward it here. And what I found was the Aug, it went up and then over, and this one went up and then way over, and this one here went one down here and then way up here, and then another one closer and over, and then here. So they're quite erratic. But when I went to M16, it was you know, the spread was a bit more uniform and they're very much in line. There wasn't this sort of, you know, back and forth that you see over here where, you know, I'm not even sure which bullet is part of which spread here, but, you know, the M16 was really easy to tell. And I think this really makes a difference when you're shooting at a guy long distance. When your bullets are going straight up, you're probably hitting all three, where maybe the reason why the M16 felt more powerful to me was because maybe one of these bullets when I was shooting at somebody wasn't actually hitting. And here's the same video after the nerf. So I landed, I, you know, zoomed in and did my shooting and did the exact same thing and ran down and have a look at it. And what I did is, you know, I can see about the same thing happening here. So I think I colored them in here somewhere. Yeah, I colored them and layered the two of them on top of each other. So what's interesting here is you can see the AUG after the nerf is not all that different than before the nerf. They're still all over the place. And the M16 before and after are very much the same. You know, they're very vertical. They're very, you know, spaced evenly and in line. And, you know, like I think this here and like this is supposed to be bigger, and it does look a little bigger, but I'm not sure exactly what they nerfed on the bullet pattern, but it doesn't look all that much different to me. But the M16 still looks the same, and it's a lot cleaner. And I think this maybe explains why the M16 felt more powerful to me. So where does that leave us? Well, for the ADS, the AUG technically is faster. The background zooms in faster and the scope is complete faster. But in practical usage, you saw when I was zooming the two in together on the side by side, the M16 actually brings the scope up earlier. Even though the background isn't zoomed up, it's more in center and you can see the crosshairs straighter on the screen. So you definitely get the M16 sooner, which is going to let you shoot sooner. And isn't that the whole point of ADSing? The faster you can shoot. So while the AUG looks like it's faster on paper, I think the M16 is actually faster because you can shoot sooner. Now next for the reticle, well, the reticle on the M16 sure seems bigger and it doesn't have as big of a black ring around it, so I definitely think that the M16 wins for how clean the scope is. So for the reload speed, the M16 is faster almost all the time. If you're using the Salvo 60 round fast mag, they're both 2 seconds. But any other magazine, if you're going with no magazine at all, or the 45 round drum, or the Stanag 60 round, the M16 is 2.7 seconds, which is 30 milliseconds faster than the AUG at 3 seconds. For rate of fire, well, the AUG was the champion for the rate of fire. It was up around 520, where the M16 was at 488. So, you know, that 7 or 8% it's better definitely makes a difference. So for bullet velocity, the AUG is the leader. It has 1120 versus the M16 at 1050. But the M16 is no slouch. As soon as you get over 1000, that's where all of your shots feel like they're hitting right on. There's not a lot of bullet drop, or you don't have to lead your shots a lot. So the AUG is technically better, and the more bullet velocity, the better. So we're going to give it to the AUG, but the M16, not to be counted out, is still over that magical mark and works really well. And for bullet spread, I think that's really one of the most important and key differences between the two guns. When I look at the AUG, that may explain why it didn't feel as powerful. The bullets were sort of left and right and all over the place. Where on the M16, they were very vertical and in line, and it probably made for more consistent shots. If I'm shooting somebody who's moving and I have those bullets moving around, all you'd have to do is just miss one of those bullets in that burst, and that's going to make it so it takes one more burst than what the other gun would take, likely explaining why the M16 felt more powerful to me. So when I look back over the overall scorecard, for ADS, the M16 I think is better. It's not better on paper, but in real practical usage, I think it's better. The reticle is better on the M16. It's also got 60 rounds instead of 54, and the reload speed on the M16 is better. Where the AUG is better is in two pretty major but key areas. The rate of fire is higher and the bullet velocity is higher. Now, I don't think this is enough to really make it win, especially when you count the bullet spread. And that was really the biggest thing for me. When I looked at the bullet spread on the M16, it's very consistent and vertical, and the spacing is very even. Where the AUG is sort of all over the place. It doesn't exactly, you know, line up smoothly, and they're, you know, back and forth and left and right and all over the place, likely leading to me missing a couple of bullets when I was shooting a guy, which is probably why it felt less powerful for me. So the M16, I think, is the overall winner when it comes to an AUG versus M16 debate. So that's it, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Are you going to use the AUG or the M16? Does what I presented here help change your mind, or are you just going to use what you're familiar with? Hit me up and let me know what you think. And as always, guys, if you don't see me in Warzone, if you don't see me in multiplayer, it's only a matter of time, baby. King James out.